some experience also in Azure. And from the platform perspective, development platform perspective, I'm mostly focused on .NET and a TypeScript. In a private life, I love running, cycling, hiking. I used to have here beer drinking, but after a couple of discussions with my wife, we decided to remove it. So let's stop here. Yeah, and before we start with the agenda, I would like to hear first your experience about the SharePoint development. I don't know every one of you, so I would like to hear first, like, who knows what's universal value web part, the value universal web part, and like handlebar templates, like. Okay, almost everyone. I will try to explain it in a couple of words then later on. Who created own custom handlebar template already? Okay, few people. Cool. Who have created SPFX project already, like library component? Okay, cool. So, who have created ever like HTML application, like HTML, JavaScript, CSS? Cool. Okay. Then I hope you will enjoy the session. You will learn something about like all the topics that I asked you about. And yeah, without any hesitation, let's start. So today I will try to tell you a few things about web components, what they are, how to use them, how to benefit from them, how to plug them into the handlebars template, and how to use them in the universal web part or in any other web project that you're working on. I don't have so many slides. We'll jump into the code and I will try to show you the code and bring the most of benefits of the session from Visual Studio Code. And later on, we have some time reserved for the questions, so if you have any, I'm glad to try to answer. Okay, so what are the web components? This is a definition that I copied from MDN. So the web components is a suite of technologies, different techniques, that allow us as developers to create or encapsulate certain functionality that we would like to reuse in multiple places. Okay, in normal words, when we deliver our projects, every single time we have these similarities in the functionalities that we require. So the easiest way is like to grab the functionality, take it out, make it a bit generic, and try to plug it into many places. How many times we all heard from our customers, from our partners, like, yeah, we have this project done for HR. Let's just, from the business perspective, let's just copy it, deliver it to marketing team, and it's going to work the same with like these tiny changes, right? These tiny changes are always like the most difficult. But with the web components, the idea is the same. We want to grab something that is reused in many places and plug it into our existing applications with little possible efforts. So, when we think about the web components, it's all about HTML. We create a native tags, we create custom tags and use them in HTML as the native ones. That allows us to separate the definition, logic, and styles. So what I mean by that is we don't have to repeat ourselves. We don't have to create the same DOM elements, put the same DOM elements into our HTML file, handlebar file, whatever. We don't have to repeat ourselves with the logic, with the tiny JavaScripts that we are injecting into our handlebar templates, and we don't have to repeat it as well with the CSS. But we can take all of that together, put it into the web component, which I'm going to show you later on how to do it, and reuse it in multiple handlebar templates. For those who don't know handlebar templates of Universal Web Part, I'm going to present it as well in a few minutes. What is a benefit of such an approach is that this these web components are framework independent. So it doesn't really matter if you're using React, Angular, Vue, or whatever you're able to use to create a logical piece that you're going to plug into web application. After building a web component or wrapping it into the web component, you can use it everywhere. So it's just HTML, right? So you can use it everywhere, in Angular, into React, or into handlebars in a nutshell. And of course, the main benefit is that you don't have to repeat yourself. Well, my experience and experiences from my colleagues from my previous works is that every single company has its own calendar. Like, every single time I joined the company, there was a task, yeah, we have to create this new calendar element and copy it over the time. So, yeah, that's a good solution. We don't think about web components to provide like a huge functionality, but it's a piece of code that contains encapsulated logic that can be reused in many places. How does it look like? This is, okay, let's take 2 steps back. Why I'm talking about web components? Because during our development of the templates that we are sharing with you, maybe you remember that how big they are and how difficult they are to maintain. We have discovered that it's impossible for us to continue this way because we spend too much time on fixing the bugs, on delivering like a new templates, on trying to include all the efforts and to also expose those templates to you. It was a nightmare. Every single time we tried to implement something new, it was like a big hassle. We also needed to share it with you. And when we discovered like there is a bug and you have used your own custom handlebar templates based on our definitions, there was no option for us to solve it and to deliver this bug fix. So we came up with the concept, okay, what if we will create a React component, write a React component, do all the magic inside, and expose only like some properties through the HTML attributes to allow to configure these web components. But behind the scene is going to be React component. But in the handlebar templates, we are going to use an easy to understand syntax, HTML, with some attributes and inject the data that is coming from the data source into the component itself. What was the result? Is on the left side, okay, it's impossible to see, but on the left side, the file was this long, and the logic was more or less something that we see on your right side. So the output was, it's much easier for us to maintain such a file. It's much easier to fix a bug because we provide only like configuration options. And the syntax is much more clear. So I know that this approach has some limitations, as we discussed with Matt. We don't allow anymore to redefine the whole structure of the web component, but instead we are able to provide some configuration options like what property is going to be displayed, what data is going to be displayed, what date time is going to be displayed on the screen. But at the very same time, we provide some benefits that whenever we'll find the bug inside one of the components, we are able to deliver that to you immediately. And if you are going to reuse this web component in your custom templates, the bug is going to be automatically fixed there as well. So, pros and cons, but we decided like this way is much, much easier for us to go on, to develop, to maintain all the things for the future as well. Okay, so what is needed then to create a project, to create our own web component and register it to be used in the universal web part or PNP's modern search web part? First of all, we need to create a library component, SPFX library component. Doing that is with Yeoman generator. You create a Microsoft, you use Microsoft Yeoman generator to scaffold the project. You pick the library component, and we are done. The only thing that you need to do is to install the NPM dependency, which is called val extensibility, to be able to register the web components that we are going to create inside the universal web part. Why library component? Because we use in so many places the universal web parts, and we want to be sure that the web components are available in all our templates. When this is done, then we simply need to create our web components. Easy. Then, we need to have a way to register the web components to inform the universal web part, hey, these are the web components that I want to use in our templates. And we can do that by implementing a web component provider interface that is coming from the extensibility model to let it know like what components we are sharing. And last, we of course need to create a handlebar template and use our web component. So no more slides. Let's jump to the code. I feel much better there than in the PowerPoint. So let me only do this. All right. If the font is too small or like the quality is bad, I'll do my best to fix it. But let's try. So what I'm going to present to you right now is the project, the sample that you are able to find on the GitHub of Vala. You can go there, clone it, and use it to start development like the very first web component that you are going to reuse in the universal web part. As you can see, it's only a very simple library component that does nothing else than putting a library component element and making it available in all the site collections in the tenant. It doesn't have very much dependencies. It only contains some, required dependency on Vala extensibility. And I also wanted to present something related to the UI. So I added here like a Office UI Fabric dependency. Everything else is about like web components and Microsoft dependencies for the library component. Okay, so we start with the library component. We create the solution. There is only one thing that we need to remember, and this limitation of the library components and the limitation of the solution that we built. Due to the fact that we need to register our web components inside the universal web part, we need to know where to look for them. And the only way to look for them inside the DOM, inside the runtime, is using the ID of the library component. So what we are doing behind the scene, we have hard-coded this ID in our universal web part, and we are always trying to find it in the window object. Whenever the ID is found in the window object, we know how to operate with the objects available from perspective of the library component itself, and we are able to load the web components into the memory. If you will find yourself that you have multiple projects, multiple library component projects, where you store the web components, or you would like to separate these projects, and you would like to load more than one library component into the universal web part, you will need to go to my favorite web part, which I built, in fact, and it's horrible, and use one of the configuration options to specify the list of IDs of the library components to load. So this property means nothing else than provide me some GUIDs of the library components that we need to load in a runtime to support the web components that you would like to use in the handlebar templates. So if more library components solutions are installed into the app catalog, or you don't want to use this ID due to any other reason, you just need to add here like the ID, semicolon separated, and everything is supposed to work. That's the only one thing that needs to be configured before. Okay, so let's go further. And the next option, as we discussed before, is to let to know the universal web part what web components are disposed or available from our solution. And this is done by simply implementing this interface. There is only like one method to implement, and the method is supposed to provide a list or the array of web components definitions, the name and a class. The name is simply like a tag, the custom tag that we are going to use in our HTML files. And the class is like the name of the class, so behind the scenes is a prototype that is going to allow us to create a new instance of the web component. And that's it. So during today's demo, I have prepared 4 very simple web components, with which I would like to present you the possibilities of using those inside the handlebars template, inside the SharePoint context. Let's go into the first one. It's super simple class that extends from the base web component, which is an abstract class that is coming from the extensibility framework, which does nothing else than provides or requires two methods to implement. In fact, one method. One method that we need to implement is connected callback. This method is executed when the web component is discovered in the handlebar templates, and it needs to be transformed to something that we define. The important thing to mention here is that during the runtime, we are always injecting the web part context into the web component. What does it mean? It means that, for example, you have, you're working on the handlebar template that, for example, displays the news, but you would like to change some news or display different colors around the news that are coming from the department that the current user works in. So there is no easy way to get like the department information just directly from the web part context, but you can use the web part context HTTP client to call the proper service to grab this information and process this information and render your elements as you want. So that could be like the example. Another important method that this class delivers is this resolve attributes. So whenever you will remember the slide that I showed with our Valo cards web component, this method transforms HTML attributes into the dictionary of key value and plugs this dictionary into the, like, we can use them in our further development. So in fact, if we are going to pass any single property, any single attribute from HTML, we are going to use this method to resolve those. Good. I will quickly delete that and show you the actual React component. So inside the React component, there is nothing really fancy. It just displays hello and the name that is passed from the properties. But what is important is that we are using here the web part context. Of course, before it was looking like that, but I think there's like a great value to separate the web component from the actual component that delivers the logic. Why? And the answer would be tests, unit tests. It's very, very, very difficult, and we spent like really hours trying to figure out how to mock all the SharePoint context objects, how to write the unit tests with SharePoint dependencies. And if we can define our React components without any SharePoint dependencies, we are much easier, our development or developer's life is much easier because we don't have to worry about mocking SharePoint objects. We can use whatever application to build these web components and to test them. So for example, what I try to sell is I don't need to use SPFX toolchain to build these web components. I can use npx create React app, build all the web components and all the React components, inside the React app, then link it as a dependency to my SharePoint library. And this way, I benefit from all the goods coming from create React app. It's faster, it provides like better documentation, it provides better ability to write the unit tests and to write the performance tests, and it's just much, much easier to develop outside of SharePoint. So I would also always recommend to create a custom React components and to split the SharePoint development into something else as long as we are able to do it. That's why I don't like this to render these elements direct from the web component. But of course, it's going to work. The next web component that I would like to talk about is Spinner. And as you can see, I don't have any kind of the custom code here. I'm just using Spinner from Office Fabric UI. So what I'm trying to say is that if in your companies, or if you have like your own React or any other Angular applications that provides you with a set of controls that you would like to reuse in SharePoint and not to rebuild them, but there was no easy option to do it before, you can just wrap them into the web component, link the project, and reuse it this way. So it's very, very easy way to simply bring the functionalities that you already have, or you can find in the web, and reuse them in your handlebar templates. Okay. So how does it look like in the templates themselves? Let me try to find it. Here it is. So in this template, this is not really important. In this template, as you can see, I'm using my hello web component and my Spinner web component. Spinner should be visible whenever the template or the data source loads the data. And whenever the data is there, we are going just to display hello, my name, and some useless information about the data, useless due to this example. Just to make it more visible, I will move my Spinner to the content part because the data can be loaded too fast. SharePoint might surprise me and load the data very fast, and we won't see the Spinner. So what I'm going to do right now, I have the solution of the web library component already installed in my tenant. So what I'm going to do is just upload a new template into the Valo templates site collection and try to display it on the page. Or actually, it's already here, but I will upload it one more time just to prove that it is supposed to work. So let me quickly open my Explorer. I'll do it this way. Templates. I use the Summit custom web component template. I'm re-uploading it, replacing it, and whenever I refresh it, we should have the same results. Okay, I can also show the configuration, the universal web part that we are using, actually this template. So we have demo 0 web component, which is exactly the same, which I uploaded a second ago. So a very easy way to avoid building something new, but reusing something already available in the web or in Office Fabric UI in that case. I know that the Fluent UI provides its own set of web components, but it just shows you like how you can reuse them in this example. All right, but it was like a pretty dummy example. Let's move forward to something more interesting. Another web component that I have created for today's demo is a card that is going to display information coming from the news. It's very, very similar to what we have in the news template currently, because I stole the CSS from Java, but it provides you like the good understanding how easy it is to create your own React based on the controls that are provided from Microsoft, from Office Fabric UI, or any other UI framework, to build something really nice looking and reuse it inside your handlebar templates. So what we have here is simply a React component that does nothing else than putting down the properties coming from the search and displaying in a document card, preview, title, and details. Nothing fancy. What is interesting is that we need to remember, okay, I would like to show one more thing here. Resolve attributes. So now we are translating the HTML attributes into the properties that our React or web component understands. And what's inside? It's nothing else than it inherits from iNews. And what I would like to have here is the information about the title, image URL, link, description, and the alpha. So if I will open my template right now that contains the demo, and I will put it here, you can see that in my template, I'm rendering for each items that are found from search or any other data source. I'm creating a card, I'm rendering a web component card, and I'm passing a title managed property at the title. Author or author by line as author, etc., etc. The important thing is that the convention in HTML is to use a hyphen between the attribute names, but in JavaScript or whatever other thing we are using the camel case. So the resolve attributes method is going to translate our image-URL into image URL with a camel case. Okay, but the web component, the handlebar template is super simple. What I did additionally, I created like the flex list just to display multiple cards in the same row. Nothing fancy in the configuration of the web part, so we are just looking for the news that are not promoted. I just copied it from the news template example. So if we'll jump back to our demo and switch to the page where I have configured the web part to use this template, you can see that with minimal effort, with really small amount of CSS, I'm able to provide a really nice looking cards. At least it looks like nice for me, because I would not be able to create the CSS of my own. But you can grab the feeling, like it's very easy to implement something like that in React or using like existing React controls, but it would be very difficult to write this kind of definition inside the handlebar template itself, because it will take a lot of HTML, it will take a lot of CSS, but we are just reusing the existing controls. One additional thing that I would like to present inside this function component is that whenever we are going to open it, as you can see here, I don't have any logic, but I have some styles. And the styles are coming from the separate file. So it gives us like a good understanding what lands where. I don't have to put everything in one place. I can split the logic of the files, the logic of my application into smaller chunks and make it much easier to manage in the future. Or it's just like, stored in a TypeScript file, but nothing prevents us to use a CSS file and deliver the CSS files to our designers or someone who is able to create those and just reuse it, right? So some additional benefit. But okay, what I can do with this web component at the moment, what I can do with my template. What I will try to do, and I will delete this file first. I cannot see delete, maybe this one. Okay, well, shit, I have deleted the wrong one, sorry. I will bring it back. I will delete the demo file, okay. Copy. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to copy my news template that I have presented you here, and I will try to reuse the same web component to display the events. Maybe the events is not the best example because we will have some different metadata, but I will again show you like the principle, what we can do with that. So what I'm going to do is exactly the same thing that I had done this morning to test it. I'm going to copy the template, and I'm going to use the same web component. I'm going to change the query. And let me open my OneNote where I have it prepared. Okay. I'm going to replace the configuration of the template itself. Make it like that. So what I'm looking right now in my query at the moment is events based on the content type and that are not recurring. Well, we don't want to display recurring events. All the managed properties are almost the same as it was with news. We are going only to replace the banner URL here because the events don't have the picture thumbnail URL managed property. But everything else is the same. So what I'm going to try to do, if there is no demo effect right now, is to upload the new template. I'm going to rename it to events, just to remember about it. Events. I'm going to try to upload it into the templates site collection and try to use it to display the events. Okay. Maybe I will create a new page. Events. Demo. 1, 2, 3. It's going to work, I hope. So I'm adding a new universal web part. And yeah, universal web part is a kind of a widget, for those who don't know, which allow us to connect the data that is coming from different sources like search, SharePoint search, Staffbase news, Staffbase channels, I don't know, events or whatever, RSS or whatever other source, and connect it to the template, which is defined in the handlebars. That provides us the structure, how the data is going to be displayed in a nutshell. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use search here, SharePoint search. I'm going to try to find events, which is not here because I haven't given it any name. So right now, let me quickly put here, like the name of my templates, my template. Okay, now it's saved. I'm going to remove the web part, refresh the page again. So again, search data source, and now I should be able to see the events demo template. I'm going to publish it, save, and voila. Now we have the events displayed in a very similar way as we have our news. Very little effort. We don't have to copy any HTML through the templates. We just change the query, which is even possible to be configured through the universal web part, and we have such an effect. Of course, we might say like, okay, in our templates, we need something else. So maybe the description is going to be something related to the event start date. I'm going to put it here. Do it like that, and maybe take the managed property of the start date. I'm going to save it, upload it one more time to the site collection, place it, update it, and we should now see additional information. No, did something wrong maybe? Okay. Okay, I have uploaded the wrong, most likely the wrong template. Let me check it one more time. This is correct one. Okay, hope this time it's going to work. No, still not working. I don't know why, but it's supposed to work. Sorry? Yes, you're correct. Inside the universal web part, we have two properties. One is responsible for caching, I will disable it, and one is responsible for storing and caching the template itself. If we are going to enable the debug mode and refresh it, we now see the start date. Thank you. So, as we can see, it's very easy to create something in React, which is going to be difficult to create the same functionality in pure handlebar template HTML. What is additional benefit of this approach is that how many times you try to debug your handlebar template when you use wrote like a JavaScript function, you tried to check it, it didn't work, and at least I've been trying to scratch my eyes when I tried to do it. But with this approach, it's super easy. Let's say I will put a debugger statement here, say it, and I will run the debugger or the gulp in a console whenever the project builds. Free. Okay, we are ready to go. Now I can quickly go here, attach the debugger to my browser, and whenever I will hit F12 to open the DevTools, you can see that we are hitting the debugger statement inside the browser. So, can I make it bigger? Yeah, so it's much, much easier also to debug our project when we see all the properties that are coming, when we understand what's happening, instead of putting like the alerts or console logs, which we had to do when we developed like only the handlebar templates. Okay, so far so good. I would like to show to you another example, which is going to be connected to the cards, and is going to be very, very similar to exactly what we did, or maybe the template first, what we did ourselves with the news. And this is this example. Okay, what we have here is we are going to use a container, a web component that accepts as an attribute all the items that are going to come from our data source. When you use, or maybe I will quickly show it on a page. When I'm going to quickly change that into our news template, you can see that we have this layouts functionality available. Due to the limitation of the web component version that we are using, and due to the limitation of how the parsing happens here, it's impossible at the moment to use nested web components in our handlebar templates. So to avoid this limitation, we decided, okay, we are going to expose the web components, the card web components as well for you, so you can reuse them. But we are also going to create a new container web component, which is going to support the layout, which might come from the DS data, from web part property configuration, or from any other place. And based on the layout, we are going to change the structure of the items displayed on the page. So in current situation, we have quite a lot of templates, 1.1, striped, list, and whatever. And in the example that I have prepared, I would like to show you like how to also achieve like different layouts coming from the web component. So what we have here is simply, again, very easy to understand web component that accepts only a single attribute, which is items coming from the search. Inside the web component, we have one additional thing that we need to do, because now we are not iterating over the elements that the search has provided to us, but now we are providing the whole collection of the items. So due to that fact, we need to manually map the properties, the managed properties values, to something that our application understands. So it means we're just iterating through our search items, and we are mapping title to title and everything else that is needed for us. Later on, we are just rendering a news cards component with already prepared items. And what happens inside? Again, we have a very simple function component, React function component, that does nothing else than displaying the cards, which we already saw, or the compact cards, which is very similar as the card component that I showed to you. It only has like one difference. It just renders as a compact, and due to the fact that it's compact, we are just putting the title and the details of the description inside the details element to create the correct structure. In addition, what happens here, I have created created, I have reused the choice group button, and that allows me to select how I'm going to display my news. Is it going to be hearts, or is it going to be a compact cards? So I have like a type that defines me how the cards can be displayed, and inside the options of the button itself, or the group buttons, we have like, we are going to use the view list icon and grid for the cards. Nothing really fancy. Whenever we change the value in the choice group, we are just setting like the correct option by using the React hook. So super, super simple code. How then does it look like? If I will find the page where I created it, I will be able to show you. And it was demo 2 as far as I remember. Yeah, so as you can see, the same cards that we used before, but currently with additional buttons that allows us to change the display, how the news are going to be rendered. And in addition, with this approach, it's very easy to add here like some checks if we are displaying the items maybe on mobile or maybe inside Teams. We are going to display it in a different way. We don't have to use the CSS. We can use we could use TypeScript. We can remember the last selected item and store it in local storage. So there are multiple possibilities how we can bring in the logic to our handlebar template by moving it from the template itself into the web component. And again, it's all about the reusability. So build it once, and I could do the same exercise and switch it to the events, and it's going to work the same way. Okay, so let's quickly jump back to the slides, and I will change it to extend. So what are the benefits? As I said multiple times, we are encapsulating the same functionality. We don't have to store everything in one place. We are encapsulating the logic, and we are using it in multiple projects, in multiple tenants even. Why not? Maybe even outside of the SharePoint, because the web components don't have, well, these are simple HTML, so they can run everywhere inside the browser. We split the code into smaller chunks. That is super useful when we think about like maintenance of the code. So how tempting is that we are having this template, we are going to copy it multiple times, change few properties, and then someone comes and tells us, yeah, but we have this typo here. And then going through all the templates again and again and trying to fix it, not the very best idea. So we are just putting the correct structure into the chunks, and we are managing it from one place. We don't need to use SPFF projects. I really, based on my experience and based on the build time of our projects currently, I really recommend not to use the SPFX to do like the heavy building things. Use Create React App or whatever other toolchain you like, but just separate the SPFX as much as you're able to do in the future, to do in your projects. Easier debugging and testing. So we can just remove the SPFX dependencies. We can use just only data coming from the SharePoint and do all the testing without the difficulty to mock SPFX context and SPFX HTTP client and all the stuff that is coming here. And it really benefits in the future whenever you need to change something. As I have showed to you, it's easy to put a debugger statement and to debug the application with all the source mapping files available. So it's much, much easier experience whenever we work on something. Of course, reuse in different templates, projects, tenant, but even in the tenants that don't have value. Because what I wanted to emphasize here is the same concept that we have implemented is also available right now in the PNP Modern Search. It came with version 4, as far as I remember. I might be wrong here. But whenever you are going to create your own web components and you have the customers that don't have Valo Intranet and that use Valo Universal Web Part, or due to any reason you don't want to use it, you can reuse the same web components and plug them into the PNP modern search, and they will behave the same way. The only difference, as far as I know, is the way how you register your library component to the web part itself. In our case, we have this hard-coded GUID, or the GUID that is coming from the configuration, from Valo admin. In the PNP modern search, you need to edit the web part properties and put the ID of the library component into the web part property, but that's the only difference. And as far as I know, the registering looks the same. Maybe the class names are a bit different and the inheritance needs to be changed due to the different dependency and the different dependency tree, but the general concept is really the same, and whenever you have web components, you can just use them immediately in the other projects, not related to Valo. Yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to show to you. I hope you liked it, and now I'm open for the questions. Okay, nothing. I just was asked to remind you that the lunch starts at noon, so we have still some time. I'm super happy that you came, because I was really afraid that no one's going to come after the session that Jarmas did before. But yeah, thank you very much. If you want to talk about or ask about something else due to technical limitations or technical discussion, I'm open for the discussion and really glad to help you. So thank you. Mm-hmm.
How this approach is together. We can say, I don't know, we use this kind of templates as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's a difficult question. PNP search web part and universal web part. First of all, the universal web part was first here, and we invested a lot into universal web part. And we did an exercise to compare two web parts and to try to find out how easily we can move from the universal to PNP. And it's not a very easy task. Second thing is that we wanted to be fully control over the code. So of course, modern web part is exposed with GitHub. We can always easily submit a bug fix or deliver a new functionality. Maybe it's not something that we want to always do. That's the second thing. We don't control the lifecycle, so we won't be able to tell like when the bug fix is going to be delivered, what bug fix is prioritized on, who is going to accept the code change. So that's another thing. We don't want to fork the search web part and to create and maintain our own copy, because sooner or later the two code bases are going to be split. So due to all this challenges, we decided like, okay, it's not worth to invest, at least at the moment. So can we reuse the same template in two places? I don't know. I never tried to implement custom template inside the PNP. I only saw the code base, so I won't be able to answer. But definitely the web components are going to work, because this is something I do.
I think everybody who's working with that, the kind of using templating stuff is one of the most important advantages on the Valo framework. But on the other hand, there are some advantages now at the PHP
Yes,
part,
definitely.
especially the Valo refiner part could
Yeah.
have more extensibility to do something.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, definitely. I do agree here. I do agree here.
Is there a path that to improve this part of the
This is a.
intranet extension feature?
Mm-hmm. This is a question to Jarmas. Of course, we can spend the efforts and put a lot of efforts to improve the existing web parts, to improve the extensibility, to improve all the quality, but it's not for us to decide as the developers. I mean, it just needs to be scheduled by and prioritized by owner of the product. Yeah, so. Okay. Sure.
Last, we had some issues when there was an update to file implement.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went to 3.1, some custom web parts didn't seem to work sometimes. But if we create templates in this way, is it more future-proof for
So do I understand correctly? Like this approach is recommended for the future and it's going to be future-proof?
Yes, so whenever file implement gets to version 5.0, for instance, and we have some of these custom templates, do we have to update them as well? Or?
No, you don't have to update anything. But the benefit of this approach is that's a very good question because with Intranet 4.0, we have introduced this Halo theme. And we discovered that it's very, very difficult like to easily switch from one theme to the other theme. And that's the reason also that we introduced the web components. Because imagine a situation that we have only one template that is going to work with all the themes. That's currently not the issue. Behind the scene, we are switching the template. Whenever you switch the theme, we are switching the template. We have our own mapping templates logic that is going to serve as a different template. But with web components, what we could do is to use the same template in all the themes, and the web component itself will discover, hey, I'm not using Halo theme here, I'm using lax, so render a lax control and display the news in a lax style, or a Halo style, or any other style that is going to come in the future, or maybe not, I don't know. Yes, like it drives the complexity from the template to something that is easier to manage. Yeah, cool.
I do have a small question about was using the handlebars topics and for formatting a currency field, but the currency was not supported by the default stuff. Okay. How fast would be the way when we say, okay, we are missing formatting for currency? How fast we could get it from the team that's maybe included to the
Okay, sorry, missing what?
I wanted to reuse
Yes.
this kind of framework and just set the field what was the currency
Current.
price tag
Okay.
to be shown in the display tab. But there have been 5 digits behind. And I couldn't fix this based on the existing model.
Okay.
Then I think it wouldn't have been a requirement to the team to add this as well.
Okay, I see it. I see it. The way I would be able to solve it, maybe I will quickly try to show it in the code, if it's going to work. Okay, let me do one more thing. Oops, shit. Sorry. One more second. So to answer the question, there is no super easy way because we encapsulate the logic, what happens inside the current existing web components. But what you will be able to do is, again, either register your own handlebar function that is going to convert the currency you want and pass a different value here. So instead of, for example, title, you could create your own function and call like change or translate title or translate currency and put the translated value immediately. And the translate can land in the template itself or it can be registered as an external handlebar helper. Yeah, it requires, yep, currently it requires custom effort. Yeah, sure.
And we thought it's just taking a number column then instead.
Changing it here. Okay.
I couldn't spend
Okay.